Should have done this first. Hi, welcome to the daily addiction, School of Addiction online support group. I am sweaty from the gym. Right, let's get in, because this has already started off well, hasn't it? My name's Ashley Bloxham. I am a addictions counsellor and therapist. I specialise in trauma, childhood, and I've also worked with veterans, which there's a big link with addiction there as well. So I've done a bit of everything, but I've also overcame addiction. That is, I think, the biggest the biggest testament I've got to my name to be doing this. I've overcame addiction, and I've also been the loved one. I've also experienced loved ones who have addiction. So I have a 360 view of addiction, and every day, in fact, I am putting on through the week. So I can support people and just have a little chat if anyone wants to join. If you're watching on the catch up, hopefully there's some little nuggets in here which can help you. And yeah, let's begin. Class is in session, guys. So today I was thinking about some practical tools that we can use for addiction and recovery. I think usually I focus on ways to love yourself. I think that is the biggest tool in your belt if you're gonna have addiction recovery and it's gonna be sustainable, and you need to get to a place where you love yourself enough to say, actually, you couldn't even pay us to go back to that life. That's where I'm at, which it's a nice feeling. But there's also some little tips and tricks that we can do to ride the wave of, dare I say, cravings, because, oh my God, the thing that I want to start to say is if somebody is in addiction and they're wanting to step out, maybe you've done it once or twice, maybe it's only lasted for a little bit of time. I want to explain to you that the cravings you experience in the beginning are so intense and this feels so powerful that that's where we kind of end up going back and we're like, oh, this is too much, and we give in. I want to let you know there is a light at the end of that tunnel. It does get easier. And I think that's one of the things when we're dealing with addiction, there's a lot of research that shows that we use the emotional side of our brain. So we're more likely to make impulsive decisions. Now, if we can engage the long-term part of our brain, this can help us think of it from a logical standpoint, and it can help counteract the cravings that we get, which is fueled by emotion. And the thing with emotion is it's very in the present moment. Even if you look at trauma, PTSD, when we start to get triggered with anxiety and depression, which isn't emotion, that's a fight or flight response, but this is what's going on when we have a trigger. We're starting to get like anxiety, that we need to get it, along with lots of other things. Dopamine's driving it, but we'll try and keep it simple. When we're talking about PTSD and stuff like that, it really brings us into the present moment, and them emotions that we felt, those emotional triggers feel very intense and real. So if we can engage our logical side of the brain, that can really help with cravings, because it switches us up, and we can't do two things at once. As much as we like to think that we're very multifunctional people, because that's what society needs from us, we're not actually that great at it. So if we're having a craving, one thing we can remind ourselves is this feels intense now, but it's going to get less. So if I can just push through this one craving now, it's going to be easier come down the line. And the thing with addiction recovery is the word never, I'm never going to do that again, feels so overwhelming and anxiety inducing in itself. So I tend to try and stay away from the word never. I've never said I'm never gonna do my drug of choice again, because it was just too overwhelming. And you hear this often around people saying, just get through the day in recovery, just one day at a time. And there's actually method behind that madness. It feels a lot more calming. So when you're experiencing a craving, try and engage the logical part of your brain and say, right, this is going to end. I'm going to do something for 5 minutes. I'm just going to get through this one craving. I'm not going to say that I'm never going to engage in it again, but I'm going to get through this one craving. And I'm going to give you some other tips and tricks that I've learned through all my training around how you might get through that craving. But just to stay on this point, just getting through that one little 5 minutes is so helpful because it classes as a win. We feel a sense of pride, and it's really important to check into that pride and, you know, sit there and say, well done, you got through that craving, what a bloody win that was. Because I think when we're in addiction, one of the things is we feel like we're kind of failing a little bit. We're letting ourselves down because we want to stop, but we're not. Or maybe we've stopped for a day, 3 days, but we've not been able to sustain it. So it's really great just to celebrate that. And even if it's only that one craving that you get through, that's fine. You know, that's still a win. You're not going to take anything away from yourself. So how might we get through this craving so we can get to the other side of it and get a win? Well, first of all, we need to engage our logical side of the brain, like I said, and part of that is reminding yourself that this doesn't last forever. You know, we've got a time span of it. I can't remember how long it lasts. It's escaped us. There's a certain amount of time that it lasts, and it can't last longer than that, like in an initial craving. You might get multiple cravings, but that one craving's going to last, I think, is it up to 2 minutes? I can't remember. It's escaped us. But remind yourself, like, this is just a certain amount of time. And there's a thing that I did in SMART training, which talked about riding the wave. So imagine it like a wave, and you can get visual with this if you're a visual person. I'm not so much, but in the training they said imagine it like like you're a surfer and you're literally riding the wave. So for me, I just kind of felt the emotions, felt the craving, and let it get to its peak where you feel so intense, and just observe it. And then what will happen is you'll start to feel like almost like a car when you put the foot on the pedal and you accelerate, and then you feel it hit that peak point, and then you can feel it coming off. You can feel the brakes coming on. So you can get to witness that. And it, instead of thinking, I'm gonna like act on the craving, instead you're sitting there thinking, I'm gonna observe it. So you can't think about two things at once. So that can be a way to do it. And when you do that, you start to realize actually this craving isn't as intense and as bad as I thought it would be. And it hasn't lasted nowhere near as long as it feels like it is. Because often when we get a craving, we're like, oh, I'm just gonna give in to that because it feels so intense. And you don't wait to get to the other side of it. Now, the great thing about this is you can start to allow yourself to realize that this is something that comes and goes. And you start to get a little bit of control over it. And the worst thing about addiction, when you're really trying to stop, is you feel like you've got no control. You feel like this drug, this alcohol, this scrolling, the gambling, porn, whatever it is, you know, there's some crazy addictions out there, whatever it is, we feel like that's in control and that's in the driving seat of your mind. And you start to realize, hang on a minute, no, I'm in control of it. Even if it's just this one craving for 5 minutes, you feel like you get a sense of control, which is great. Thanks, Mountain Goat. I am talking about fit. I've just been at the gym, so I'm like getting back into my legit fit because I had 6 weeks holidays. So that is something that's really great. So get on to back to cravings, because that's the topic of today. One of the good things you can do as well is distract yourself. And I spoke about 5 minutes there. So a 5-minute rule is great. So if you're here at the beginning, what I spoke about is when we say, I'm never going to do that thing again. For me, it was ketamine. I'm never going to take ketamine again. That feels overwhelming. But if you can say, I'm not going to do it for 5 minutes, you can start to get that control back, and you can start to rack up the wins, and it doesn't feel as overwhelming as never. So what can we do in those 5 minutes? Well, what our brain is seeking is dopamine. It's not actually the addiction itself, it's dopamine. That's why often when we stop one addiction, we lean into another. I don't know if that's been other people's experiences. Somebody X has said it's easier said than done. I'm going to come back to that because I fully agree. And I'm going to give you some ways to help you get to the point where you're stopping cravings. But what I would say, X, is if you can try this for 5 minutes, it's not about stopping. It's just about getting a bit of control back. So I'll just finish the point and then I'll circle back to you. I just don't want you to feel like you're getting ignored. So if we can do something that gives us that dopamine hit that we're searching for even better in those 5 minutes. So that looks like exercise. It looks like doing something that you have to use your mind for. It might be going and having a cold shower. It might be something that you find really fun that lights you up. But just do something for 5 minutes and distract yourself. And it's not about saying never. It's just about this one craving. I'm going to win this battle. I'm going to take control, not the addiction. That's not being in control for this 5 minutes. And it's just about learning that actually these cravings do pass. I am in the driving seat of my mind. I can do it. So high pressure job needs something to blank out the pressure. Oliver with a twist. I'm definitely going to come back to you. So, right, I'm just going to go through things and try and answer. So people bear with, because I had somebody in one of my lives getting annoyed with us that I didn't answer, but I'm just going to go down the comments. So if I haven't got to you, that's just because I'm trying my best to answer everyone. Hi, Sammy. Thanks. That's a nice compliment. So X, easier said than done. Yeah, it really is. I want to ask you a question. Obviously, you don't have to answer. But I really struggled with addiction and sustainable recovery because I didn't love myself. I really, really struggled because I was in a toxic environment, so I didn't love myself to be around the right people. I didn't love myself to put in boundaries. I was so self-loathing. Like the language I used towards myself, especially around being an addict, was horrendous. And one of the things I did, and I'll advocate for, is I got sober before I got sober. So I was actually already doing my training to be an addictions counsellor before I developed addiction, which is weird. I'm really spiritual, so for me, I feel like the universe is like, oh, you want to help people with addiction, do you? You're not going to be able to do that if you've not experienced it, so have some addiction. Oh my God, that was horrendous. A good few years, pregnant, still not able to stop when I gave birth, just constantly relapsing. But one of the things that I realised was all these tips and tricks and tools that I'm learning. I'd done a master's in addiction. None of it worked. I was like, why is it not working? Why is the AA meetings not working? Why is the SMART meetings not working? Why is everything that I've learned not working? And what I realised is because I didn't love myself. You know, you can't fight this battle if you're fighting yourself. So I'm wondering, like, what's your relationship with yourself? And is it that you're in a healing journey, or is it that actually you're really shaming yourself for where you're at? So you're on methadone, coming off H. Yeah, do you know what it is? My addiction was ketamine, on and off alcohol, and you know, some lesser ones, but they were causing trouble in my life, like sugar. So I've never went through heroin, but I know the girl who I do a podcast with it's a live podcast on the Sunday, she's got off heroin and crack, and she was going through methadone. So like, you should come join at 11:11 on a Sunday. You know, she's so inspirational, and she might be able to offer you some stuff that I can't. Obviously, I've studied it for over a decade. I've done 17 years of studying in total area. But yeah, it's really hard. But the fact that you're doing that, coming off heroin, is absolutely amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. And you know, you really need to be proud of yourself, because there's so many people who can't do that. And I always say, like, addiction's like your superpower. If you can do that, like, realistically, you're pretty goddamn hardcore. Let's be real. Like, anybody who's able to even just say no to that craving and get through it is pretty badass. Let's be real. But yeah, I wonder what your relationship with yourself's like, and are you around the right people as well? So mountain goat, climbing mountains where I live, it takes in the lakes, it's the best addiction ever. Yeah, it's so good. And you know, you'll get dopamine and endorphins, which is absolutely amazing. Getting into nature for me, like, is literally a saver. And I started doing that before I got sober. I started going out and finding things that I loved and enjoyed and reconnecting back to my sense of identity and myself before I even got sober. So when I made that jump, I wasn't just jumping off the edge into this, you know, waking up sober to this version of myself that I hated, who had nothing to do, had no friends outside addiction. So I started to get sober before I got sober, and that was a big part. But yeah, I love that. You remind me of a boxer, Savannah Marshall. Oh, I don't know who she is, but I'll take that. I do jiu-jitsu, so I wanted to do boxing, but I'm kind of glad because I'm rubbish at... I was going to do MMA, actually, and I'm so rubbish at jiu-jitsu that I thought, thank God I wasn't throwing boxing in the mix. Stick with it. Take your time on the reduction. Good luck. Yeah, fully believe that. My friend Barbie, who I do my live with, she, oh my God, what a hero. Anybody getting off heroin and going down with methadone. I was on quetiapine because I've got bipolar, and they put us on these meds because I got sectioned. And when it was turning us into a zombie, it was literally felt like the same feeling I had when I was a ket addict, but without the quote unquote good stuff of it, you know. I wouldn't ever advocate for that. There was a lot of bad, but you know, we have to be real. When we're having addiction, there's also some good in it, because we wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't a good feeling attached to it. But the quetiapine felt like the bad stuff of the ket without the good stuff. And it was making us a zombie. I was a really bad mom. I couldn't like get up and be the version of myself I wanted to be. And I decided to stop the quetiapine, and I went, so I don't know what it's like to come off methadone, but when with my friend Barbie, because she had successfully done it, I remember I dropped it and she really supported us through it. But I thought, my God, if this is what you're doing every drop, absolute hero, anybody who's doing it. And I think lean into praising yourself, because if you're not already, I hope you are already. But what a hero, because and that's just like experiencing it once, like knowing you've got that coming, you really are going into battle. And honestly, I have so much pride and empathy for anyone who's doing that, getting off methadone. What a person. Yeah, for me it was a fight with myself. Yeah, I think that's the thing, that most addictions, so apart from alcohol and heroin, it is a psychological addiction, and that's a fight in itself. But going in that fight when your body's doing that, I couldn't imagine going through what I went through with the quetiapine if I had that in the mix when I had coming off my drug addiction. I dreaded things. So like, you know, it is a fight. But I've got to ask you, Imagine 3000, like what level of pride did you have for yourself when you did that? Yeah, that's the thing. So sorry, I'm just catching up on the comments. So Imagine 3000, every day I'm fighting my own insecurities and addictive nature, but it's a fight you can win. That's the problem. The thing is, and so I'm an addictions counsellor, and one of the things I got told was, oh, I wouldn't do that because the retention rates, right? So that's jargon, counselling jargon. But one of the things they said is, if you're an addictions client, private, you're going to struggle to get clients because they'll come for a couple of sessions, and then because of the addiction, because we all know, I don't know anyone who's managed to stop first time round. There will be people out there, and hats off to them, but most people stop. If you're anything like me, God knows 100 times, I'm stopping tomorrow, and then you'll get to the end of the night and you've not stopped. Would you look at that? I haven't stopped. And it's really demoralising. But when you finally come out of it, one of the things that you're faced with is you've got to deal with the reason why you were in the addiction in the beginning, which is trauma, loneliness, insecurities, like outdated beliefs. Like for me, it was I need to be perfect. So you have to deal with all these things, and then the insecurities that you've racked up through your addiction, because it like absolutely obliterates self-worth and self-esteem and confidence in yourself. So you've got all of this to contend with. And although I was warned against doing addiction counselling, I thought, no, I need to do it, because a lot of addiction services only deal with the addiction, like it's a symptom. I'm like, no, we need to deal with the problem, and we need to deal with the insecurities, and because it's a fight from all angles. People think, oh, just stop. Well, no, actually, if I stop, I've got to deal with all that stuff that I've been self-medicating. I've probably got some mental health disorders underneath there as well, let's be real. It's obviously often comes hand in hand. I've got like the fact that I've actually got to deal with the addiction itself. Maybe there's some physical things that I've got to deal with if you're dealing with like heroin or alcohol. And I've also got to deal with like the fact that I hate myself. Let's be real. If I loved myself 100%, I probably wouldn't be in that position in the first place, because loving yourself and having an addiction don't really marry up very well. So yeah, it's a big fight, but it's something that you can win, and I have won. And Imagine 3000 is saying it's a fight you can win, and I fully advocate for that. So yeah, it's a horrible drug. Yeah. Do you know what it is? So I think it really is. It's one of the things with heroin is, so although I haven't done it myself, I do know a lot around the theory behind it, because I've studied addiction inside and out. And the problem with heroin is it's not just the dopamine that you're after, which most drugs or gambling, sex addiction, all these things, it's the dopamine hit we're after. But the problem with heroin is it's also the opiates that we get from it. It's the endorphins. So it's a double whammy. It is. I would argue as well, alcohol is right up there. Heroin and alcohol are the two that I would say was worse. But do you know, it's all relative though, because I think whatever anyone's going through, that's going to be it's hardcore. Like I think, you know, we can band things. So there's an official banding of what's worse with different addictions and drugs. But I think, you know, any addiction that someone's going through, it can be life destroying. But yeah, it's a horrible drug. I do agree. Walking is great for mental well-being. Yeah, it's brilliant. Talking about dopamine, so like any form of exercise is brilliant because it produces dopamine. But you know how we get like a come down, or you get that sinking feeling after you've engaged with whatever drug or alcohol, gambling, whatever it is. That's because the way that our brains work with dopamine is when we experience high pleasure, which we get from the dopamine, it needs to recalibrate. So our brains are always trying to achieve homeostasis, like this sense of balance. And if you're thinking of it like scales, so we get that pleasure, and then what goes up must come down. So to balance it out, we'll get equal amount of pain, like psychological pain. And that's why you know, that feeling of, oh my God, I wish I was not here, like emptiness, hollowness, depressed, come down basically. That's our brains rebalancing. And that's when we always think, I feel rubbish, so I know what's going to make us feel better. Whereas if we do something like exercise, walking, gym, ice baths, cold showers, sauna, something where you've got a bit of pain in the mix, you don't get that swing up and down. It's already balanced. So walking is great for mental well-being, but it's fantastic, a fantastic thing, a substitute for addiction. So if you can go for a walk when you're experiencing a craving, or go in a cold shower or something, you can get that dopamine hit, but you can also, you don't get the down that you get with addiction. So my relationship with myself now is pretty fine, to be honest. As for socialising, no, I don't socialise, not my type of thing. I guess so you're socialising now, X, you know, it's about connection, I think. Connection's just super important for our brains. So like, I'd say you're sat here connecting. That's good to hear that your relationship with yourself is pretty good. That's great. So I guess maybe because I'm autistic, maybe I've took what you've said, it's not easy, as meaning you were saying to me it's hard, where you're saying it's not easy, but you're doing it anyways. Hats off to you. Yeah, I was given meds for mental health, but I've not been taking them as they make me feel off. Yeah, I'm the same. I wouldn't advocate as a mental health professional for people not to take meds. But yeah, what I realised was it wasn't good for me. But I also have to make sure I'm not getting sectioned, because I'm a single mom. I've got a little boy. He's very young. He's 4. So what I was thinking was I need to balance that. So what I've tried to do is do it holistically. So exercise, good sleep, eating very well. So I asked for a dietitian, not a psychiatrist. And that's really helped. Learning how to, as much as I possibly could, about my disorder and bipolar and how to keep it in balance. So that's really helped me. Yeah. Because, yeah, they do make you feel off. And the thing is, it is crazy because we're told, like, let's have pharmaceutical meds. But my experience is I was addicted to them. They had just as much side effects as the other meds. The reason why I got sectioned and put on the quetiapine was because they put us on ADHD meds, which then I didn't realise I had bipolar. So I ended up having a manic episode, psychosis, got sectioned. I'm like, are these meds any different to the self-medication I was doing beforehand? Yeah. Again, I'm not saying, if you need medication, you need medication. But yeah, I agree with that, X. So getting away from the old crowd was a must for me, and setting myself small goals every day. Absolutely agree with that. Imagine 3,000, 100%. And again, at the beginning, I don't know if you're here at the beginning, but I was talking about engaging the long-term part of your brain. So that engages your long-term part of your brain, goal setting. And then also, I don't know if this is your experience, but I just literally felt like I was a failure. I felt like I'm letting myself down every time I said that I wanted to stop and I couldn't. I felt it was like chipping away at my sense of self and my sense that I could achieve things and I could do things. So setting goals, little manageable goals that you can win, is amazing, because it really counteracts that. And you start to think, actually, yeah, no, actually, I am that person who can do that. And I tell you what, I don't know about you, Imagine 3,000, but I literally feel invincible. I feel like I can do anything now. And it is them little goals, those achievable goals, praising yourself for having those little wins, even if it's just getting over that one craving, that one drop. Oh my God, how amazing you are for doing that. Like, honestly, hats off to you. But yeah, I fully agree with what you're saying. You're speaking my love language here, Imagine 3,000. Look in the mirror and think, you're weak, you're pathetic, go set of balls. Some days I win, some days the man in the mirror wins. Yeah, and we are human. I'm a therapist, and you know what is, I love myself. Still catch myself out though, being not kind to myself. I developed something in my addiction, because I said I started to love myself before I got sober. And basically it was this little habit of, when I hear a little voice in my head being, not being kind, I started to speak out loud and say it out loud. And I was like, so say, right, I'm trying to think of something that I've said recently. Oh God, I did something embarrassing, and I was like, oh my God, you're such an embarrassment, in my head. And out loud, I said, no, you're not an embarrassment. You're human, you're quirky, you're cute, you make mistakes, put your big girl pants on and just get over it. You're fine, you're lovable. And I just say it out loud, and it's really helpful. It was quite funny though, because I mentioned I got sectioned, and I've got this habit now where I speak out loud to myself, because I just live with me and my little boy. And when I got sectioned, I was like, oh God, I can't speak out loud because they're going to think I'm mental. Like, I'll be here for the rest of my life. So I didn't speak out loud, and I got on day release. I came home and I was like, hello, Ashley, I've missed you. As soon as I walked through the door, I was like, oh, I miss speaking to myself. But yeah, it is all about self-talk. And God, how bad was I talking to myself when I was an addict in active addiction? And with you, I left behind all my childhood friends, struggle to build relationships now. We need that human interaction though, otherwise it can withdraw into ourselves and become depressed. Yeah, we are social creatures, and actually there's research that shows that we shut down. We shut down because it's actually not safe to be outside of our tribe. So it's human connection is actually just as important, just as nourishing for longevity, for physical health as eating well, sleep. There's a lot of research around that. But we do live in a digital world, and I don't think watching posts is connection, but coming on stuff like this is connection. Imagine 3000. I was the same. I got rid of so many people. I had to take inventory because there was so many people who were tearing us down, who was sending my nervous system worse. And when I reached out for support for addiction, there was people who really kicked us when I was down. And I don't blame them. People hurt. There's everybody who hurt us have been indirectly affected by addiction in quite traumatic ways. So, I get that they were probably triggered, but I had to get rid of so many people. And then I felt really lonely, but I was lucky to be left with a handful of people. But I really do struggle to let people in. They've got to pass a lot of tests. I've been single for 3.5 years, and I've been very vigilant on, is this person going to make the cut? Like, I've met someone now, but, it's still in that kind of, like, can I trust them, can I not phase? Because it's been quite a few months of getting to know them. But, yeah, I'm very particular on who I let in my life. But I think that's good because I had zero discernment. Maybe I've gone too far the other way now. But, yeah, I get that. It's really hard to build relationships when you've had to be so vigilant with who you have in your life. But I have to say, the relationships I've built with people, taking my time with it, friendships and stuff, there have been really good relationships. So it's about quality, not quantity now. But yeah, 100%. Right, I'm going to go down. Did you forget about me? Oh, Oliver Twist, I'm still going down. But yes, I did. I'm so sorry. I'm in a bad place right now. I'm in a high pressure job. I need something to blank out the pressure. Yeah, do you know what that is? So that is a good point. And I think, often one thing that we overlook is that society, the expectations we have on ourselves are very high. I want to think about this because I don't want to just rattle off any old rubbish to you. So I'm just going to go silent for a second and think about, get my counselling hat on and try and think about what a good response to this is. Okay, so I want to ask you kind of a question. Just, is it just the job which is high pressure, or do you feel like your whole life is high pressure? Is it because, we have to be realistic about stuff. So I find it incredibly intense to be a mom, especially a single mom with a toddler. He's 4 now, but so I'd managed to get sober, but I kept relapsing. And one of the things was that I actually was really struggling with the intensity of being a single parent, overcoming addiction. I was working as a therapist. So it felt like everything in my life was really high pressure. I was setting up an addiction business at the time. I was working through BetterHelp, doing addiction groups. So there was so many high pressure things in my life. And I couldn't really take away a lot of it because, so for me, I know being a single parent might not sound intense for everyone, but I'm neurodivergent, so I was very overstimulated. So it was super intense for me, and it still is, unfortunately. So what I had to do is take inventory, and what I noticed was everything in my life was high pressure job. I was running my own business. I was setting up a new business. My parenting was high pressure. I was also putting high pressure on myself as a neurodivergent person to keep my house immaculate. I had so many different people that I was trying to juggle. And what I realised was it's like everything in my life's high pressure. And I just started to take stock. And I'm thinking of my friend Rachel here. So she always says that it's like spinning plates. It's just like if you're spinning 20 plates, they're all just going to come off and collapse. And that's when you fall into addiction or continue using addiction just to get that bloody breath. So both of us are in recovery, and what we do is we talk about with spinning plates is like, right, let's just get rid of some plates so it's manageable, or put a plate down and focus. So I just thought, right, my house doesn't need to be immaculate. Like, who cares if my house is, like, just put that down. I don't need to be setting up my business right now. Like, wait until my kid goes to school, do that. So I started to take inventory of my life and thinking about, because ultimately I just came out of addiction, and like recovery comes first. So that I'm never going to be able to sustain a high pressure job if my addiction is there. So I had to think about, like, what can I get rid of in my life? What's not serving us? Can I step back from people a bit? Can I not put the pressure on us to be a perfect mom? Just do my best. And just is the things where I'm overworking. So with my clients, it's quite intense being a counsellor. I started to think about, okay, I'm going above and beyond for my clients. Like, I'm going away and researching every single little issue that comes up, when realistically normal therapists don't do that. I'm giving them extra time instead of writing up my notes. So can I be more boundaried? Yeah, I'm going to be more boundary. Do I need to give 120%? No, because I'm burning out. So eventually I'm going to be able to give 0% to them. So yeah, just take inventory and see where you can go easier. I hope that's helpful. Obviously it's hard to answer with just a little comment, so feel free to chip in and tell us where it doesn't apply to you. I'll try again. Right, I mean, in person with socialising, online I feel like it's quite different. Yeah, but it's still connection. One thing I'd say, I mean, is it something you want to work on, X? Are you wanting to socialise a bit more? Because there's a lot of things around, like, counselling techniques I can give you for that. If that's something you want to, or are you just saying, there's no point in sitting here saying, I can give you some tools to help you with you. Like, well, I actually don't want to socialise. I don't like people. Screw the pedestrians. I'd rather just sit here and talk to cranks like you. So yeah, let's know. I agree. You are lovable, quirky and cute. Just saying, oh, thank you, I love that. Yeah, I am. I used to hate myself. So sad. I look back and I'm like, why did you hate yourself so much? Oh God, but I think we all do. Like, there's so many of us grown up just thinking, like, God, just putting ourselves down, and then you wonder why addiction's so rife. You're like, no wonders why I was addicted. Like, escaping my own thoughts, I was cruel to myself. I was my own worst enemy. You bang on about feeling invincible. Came off H, and I feel euphoric. I'd never experienced life before. I know. It's so nice. I also had some kind of personal revelation where I suddenly became self-aware. Yeah. It's kind of a double-edged sword, that, though, isn't it? Self-awareness. Like, it's good. But then I remember when I was doing my counselling training. So I genuinely think the reason why I started my addiction was when I was doing my counselling and training. That's when the addiction started. And I'd already, look, my psychiatrist said I was addicted to mind-altering substances because I didn't have a day sober in my 20s and early 30s. But it was like one thing or another. I had a bit of a kind of, I would say, an issue with alcohol and coke on and off. But I didn't have a solid, like, you're going to be addicted for a kind of few years and experience the shame and pain of that and the fear of, like, am I going to, like, how far is this going to go? Like, am I going to be living on the streets? Like, where's this taking us? The thing that you get with addiction. But, yeah, what was I saying? Right, let's think. You said, oh yeah, so anyways, I started my counselling training. And I didn't have an addiction. I was trained to be an addictions counsellor. So I'd already studied addiction in my previous degree in counselling. And I went on to do another counselling degree. And this counselling degree, what happened was we had a focus on personal development, because the argument is quite rightly, you shouldn't be counselling other people if you're like without taking a good hard look at yourself and fixing yourself first, because you could just cause so much more damage because we're projecting, transference and all that counselling jargon. But what happened is I started to become self-aware, and I started to realise, actually, you know, there's a lot of things that I don't like. Like, I was quite a toxic person. And it was very confronting. I started realising, like, I'm controlling. Like, that's borderline abuse. Like, you're literally controlling your boyfriend. You're telling him what to do, when to do. You know, that arguably, that's abusive. Like, you know, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't really bad. And, you know, I've tried to be kind to myself. But there was a lot of things. And, you know, I was very... I didn't have any boundaries. I was very passive aggressive. I would say things to people to, like, you know, like sly digs, instead of just saying a boundary, like, I don't like that you're doing that noise. There was a lot of things that I thought, ooh, put myself under a microscope and I don't like what I say. But then I also started to realise for the first time that I had, like, trauma, and I started having flashbacks. And when you become self-aware, you start to have flashbacks. So I actually then started, that's when I fell into addiction. So I'd already recreationally took my my drug of choice. But that's when I started becoming addicted. And it was because it was too much to deal with, this self-awareness and then the trauma. But yeah, so then I had to go on a self-healing journey, a self-love journey, because I already knew the techniques on how to stop addiction, because I'd already been learning them. And none of them were working. And I was like, what? But I've just learned these to help people stop their addiction. But none of them were working. But that's self-awareness. It's great, but it's also a bit of a kicker. But, like, I'm self-aware enough now, and I've healed enough, and I love myself enough to be able to take it on the chin. Like I say, I've been dating someone recently, and oh my God, when you start to have a new friendship or a new relationship, you start to realise some other stuff about yourself. You're like, fuck, I thought I was healed. I thought I'd done this. And then you're like, actually, like, I started off thinking, like, oh, they're the problem. I'm like, no, actually, you're the problem. You've got to go sort that out. But the thing is, I've done enough healing now that when I start to realise something I don't like about myself, I can take it on the chin a little bit more and just sort it out. Anyways, now I prefer it as I am. I enjoy my own company more than any other. Do you know what it is? The more I love myself, the more I don't want to be around people. But also, I am neurodivergent, so I actually can't bear noise and people. And I think a lot of, like I said, I was addicted to mind-altering substances. I think part of the problem was I was self-medicating neurodivergence. But, like, I do the school run or something, and someone starts speaking to us, and I'm like, oh, get me away from this person. Certain people, though, it's different. It's people's energy. Certain people, I can sit really easily talking to people. Usually they turn out to be neurodivergent, or they've been through addiction or mental health or something. But other people, I'm like, oh, get away. Get away from me. And I think it's energy. You can pick up on people's vibes. I'll drop you a like. Thanks so much. That's really helpful, because I'm trying to grow my channel. So I've got big plans. I'm writing a book. It's called Breaking Out of the Box. It's on addiction. But I'm also wanting to do some group work, and yeah, it's all really helpful, subscribing and stuff. So appreciate that. Likes. Yeah. Right, well, I've really enjoyed talking to you guys, and it's nice to hear, like, different people going through the same thing. And yeah, it does make you feel invincible. And God, getting off H, wow. Because I always think that I've got a friend who struggled with crack addiction, and really, like, my heart goes out to him, and he's managed to do it. But yeah, I always think, like, you know, I found it tough with ketamine, but it's a big thing to do that. And I think, wow, what a person. I've got so much adoration. I bet you feel invincible, because I feel invincible, and that's next level. The other one I think is a really, really hard one to kick out, which I'm so blessed to have not had to go through, is alcohol addiction. Like, I have struggled on and off, and I have made the jump to not drink alcohol, but being knee deep in that for years, and it's so everywhere. Like, I've found it hard, and it's something I've always like kind of teetered in and out of, but I've always managed to stop. But then I'll slip back into it, but it's because it's so socially acceptable. But yeah, I find that would be a hard one as well. But yeah, anyways, I've enjoyed speaking to you. If you're watching on the catch up, I hope it's been helpful. I would go live every weekday at 10:10 because I love numbers, and 10:10 means change in numerology and ending out a cycle. So I thought that was a good time, and also, like, I eat my dinner at 11:11, so I can't do it at 11. So yeah, but anyways, it was good. Crack wasn't an issue for me, to be honest. Never got addicted, just took it now and then. It's the opioids. Yeah, I know a lot of people, it tends to be either crack and then they'll dip in and out of opioids, or opioids are the addiction of choice and then they dip in and out of crack, because it's that what brings you. Yeah, it's like, so like arguably I could say that I had an issue with sleepers, like, but it wasn't the sleepers that I was bothered about. It was the fact that I couldn't sleep when I was on Ket. So then I would have like a Xanax or different street like things I'd get just to get us down, bring us down. But yeah, Soplaclone, yeah, I'm on so I have Elvansis. Elvansis, is that what, ADHD tablets? Because I've been prescribed Elvansis and Soplaclone. That's the one medication I do have at the moment for me bipolar, actually, because I did speak about how I'm not on meds, but when I have a hypomanic episode, I do have Soplaclone for a week or two, and lorazepam, which is like a fast-acting diazepam, if you don't know. It works in 5 minutes, and I'll have that just to make sure I don't have psychosis. It's quite a scary place to be when I'm hypomanic. Because I don't know if anybody has bipolar or knows anything about it. I didn't know anything about it, which is weird because I had it, and also I was a mental health professional. But I thought bipolar is when to be honest, I think what I thought BPD presents as is what I thought bipolar was like. But when you have hypomania, you feel invincible, amazing. And then the problem is, it's like you take an ecstasy. And the problem is, like, it just keeps on growing, this euphoric feeling. You kind of don't want it to stop. And when you know that you're in it, you're like, oh, I kind of like this. Especially if you've had a low where you feel like really depressed, like, you know, scarily depressed. But it escalates, and it can get to the point where you're having psychosis and walking around naked around your park thinking you're going to get beamed up by aliens. Sharp made us think, actually, I don't like that euphoric feeling, because I know where it can go. So I have Soplaclone, but weirdly I was on Elvansis Adult, and that's what triggered my first psychotic episode, the time when I was walking around naked. Well, that is a funny story, you know. You're laughing, Chris, I'll tell you. Beat me up, Scotty. So the voices in my head told us that so funny, this. That I need to go and save my son. My son's getting beamed up by aliens in the park. But I was scared to leave. There's a whole backstory of why I was scared to leave, but I'll not bore you with that. But anyways, I was told by the voices in my head, my psychosis, that I was only allowed to take 3 items to this new planet. And I had these earrings, which were Winnie the Pooh, which I had since I was 7. So I picked them. I just got my nose pierced in the middle of the episode. So I wanted to keep my nose stood. And I had this teddy. It was a starfish teddy that my friend bought us. So they were my 3 items. I braved, so I walked out the front door. It was about 3 in the morning, and I had my starfish teddy, which came in handy to cover up me me bits and bobs. So I'm walking down, and you know, I don't know if any of you have seen Game of Thrones, but when she's walking through the street, there's like a bell, and they go shame, shame. So I had this like bell going off my head, my pesky psychosis saying shame, and I'm walking down, and then the voice was like walk towards the light. So I started walking towards the light. Oh my god, the light was a woman with a torch walking her dog, and I was just walking towards her with this starfish stargaz. And luckily, it clicked us out of my psychosis, because I was like, this isn't a light that's beaming us up. This is a person walking the dog. And I was like, wow, what am I doing? So I went home and phoned the crisis team. Oh, God. You've got to laugh, though. You have to laugh. But anyways, I am getting a bit tired and hungry, and I'm going to be cranky if I don't get my food soon. But it's been nice speaking to you, and if you're watching it on live, on a catch-up, thanks for joining. And if you're free any day, 10:10, come along. I'm doing a live podcast with my friend who I spoke about, who got off H. She's a bloody amazing, inspirational woman. So we do a live podcast on YouTube every Sunday at 11:11. So feel free to join that. We do a Q&A at the end. But yeah, I'll let you go. Bye. Thanks, Chris. I will. Enjoy your day, everyone. Bye.